I have waited for years to make this statement to everyone. I want the world to know who did this. Scott has spent an entire life of loving and protecting you, but this I refuse to cover for you.
I personally think that it's not difficult to imagine that she could have moved the body.
So she points it out to Scott, strategically, her child. She made her children find this body. Their father burned up in a burn pile. The granddaughters were on the property looking for him.
I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. He took Big Daddy.
She wanted her children to find their father.
My mother, your mom, begged me to take the blame for this. She said after she talked to you, after Gary died, that she knew you had done it.
For me personally, it was just the overwhelming, in my opinion, evidence that she was there during the opportune times for the murder and the cleanup.
Mr. Weaver, Ms. Ray?
This is Melody Farris' son. Well, one of her sons. Not the son that she's accusing, though.
Judge, we have two witnesses, or actually we have one that he's prepared a statement. We were just going to call him and let him read the statement.
All right, that's fine.
Fifth call, Mr. Dave Thomas.
This is Melody Farris. It's her sentencing. And for those of you guys who are not familiar with this case, here's a quick little recap of what she is accused of. Well, she's already convicted of it. So, Melody Farris, she is in her 60s right now. She's accused of murdering her husband, Gary Farris. And Gary was apparently a very prominent attorney in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And so what happened was, one day, they both live in a farm, and their son also lives on the farm as well. I think the farm was it like 10 acres or something? And one day, I think the son stumbled upon a burn pile pit that Gary was in. So he calls 911, and he's like, my God, there's like a body in there, and maybe he knew that was his father. Now, when investigators came and arrived, they initially thought that maybe Gary had some sort of like a health thing, and maybe he fell into the fire pit. However, when they retrieved his body, they found a bullet apparently in the rib area. So obviously someone had shot Gary. And so they arrest Melody Farris, and I heard that apparently she had an affair that was going on, but she said that she ended the affair about a year before Gary was found. However, I think investigators found that she was lying. She wasn't being truthful about that. So they arrest her, and here we are today. She's been accused of murdering her husband, Gary Farris. However, she's been pointing the finger at her son. She said that, like, I didn't murder Gary. It was Scott who did it. Scott, my son. Scott's got, like, anger issues. And so, obviously, Melody Farris is the one who's on trial right now. And I think the families, they're divided. That's why I want to watch the victim impact statements, because I want to see who supports Melody and who doesn't support Melody, who thinks that she actually did it. And I want to see what she says in her statement to the judge. Is she going to be like, all right, well, y'all have already found me guilty. Okay, you know what? I'm actually really sorry for what happened, and I did it. I'm not going to blame my son anymore. I'm not going to tarnish his name, but we'll see what happens. Maybe she'll just be like, no, my son did it, or maybe she won't say anything at all. So we're going to watch the sentencing to see what she's going to say. And again, I want to listen to victim impact statements.
Your Honor, may I address the court and say what she thinks to you and the family?
All right.
First, I'd like to address the Farris family. I want each and every one of you to know how sorry I am for the loss of your dad, your brother, and Melody, for your husband, Gary. I understand what it's like to lose both parents. I buried both of mine in the pouring down rain in 29-degree weather on a Christmas Eve not too long ago.
Oh.
So I understand all the questions about death and why. Yours is even more complicated as to who and why. You are all in my prayers.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Based on how he started off his speech, it sounds like he's about to say something in support of Melody. It's like, I know what you guys are going through. I've been there. 29 degrees weather. It was Christmas Eve. And I'm like, oh, okay, I think he supports Melody.
And in my thoughts, as these years have gone by, no amount of money can ever replace a parent, a spouse, or a brother, and no amount of money is ever worth anybody's life. Second, Melody, I am your friend. And I will stand up for you today because in the 8 months, 6 years ago that I came to know you, I witnessed what a true friend could be to another friend of ours who was fighting for his life, as he still is today. I saw what your heart was made of in spite of your own circumstances and problems, and that you wanted to help, not to hurt, but to help. I saw the kindness you showed myself along with other people around you. I know your story always remained the same, and it never changed. And in my heart of hearts, I believe in your innocence. For I would not be here today, along with our friend in spirit, Alan, who is fighting this horrible disease called cancer as we speak. Third, Your Honor, this is my friend Melody. Melody Walker Farris, whom I come before you today on her behalf as a friend to ask you for mercy.
Is that a picture of her? It is.
I ask you for grace. I ask you for leniency upon your decision of her sentencing. Gary's death was a horrible tragedy, and there is no excuse for murder on any level. But to convict someone and sentence them for life is even more of a tragedy in itself, especially if it is the wrong person, and especially if all of the evidence was not able to be presented to the jury as a complete investigation should have been brought forth. There were a lot of holes in this case and a lot of unanswered questions. I don't know who's responsible for Gary's death. I know the jury did the best they could with the information that they had to work with, Your Honor. But there were doubts, and there still are for many of us in this case today. I don't know who will have to live with that burden for the rest of their lives, but in coming to know Melody, I cannot believe she is the one responsible for her husband's death. And if
Judge, I'm going to object. He cannot impeach the verdict. That's improper statement. He can talk about it affects him and the family, but he cannot impeach the verdict.
I'm going to let him go ahead.
If I gave you a roadmap and tore it in half and expected you to reach a decision in this case without all of the information, that would not be fair to anyone, including Gary, if the wrong person was convicted. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. Anyone got any questions?
No.
All right.
Higher trial. That is Mr. Alan Wilson.
I wonder if her. Oh man, look at him just staring at that guy as he's walking back into the gallery. That's like a death stare right there.
Higher trial. That is Mr. Alan Wilson. Who's suffering from cancer. As you're not
Look at him.
referring to. He's not able to be here due to the sickness.
Okay.
So he's fair statement 5 minutes before.
All right. Y'all.
I see it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Judge, will take a second because I got to zoom in. Mr. Alan Wilson writes, I've been Melody Walker Farris's friend for the past 30 years. I helped to build her and Gary's house at Hampton Hall, and that's where our friendship began. I have watched her children grow up over the years and become adults. Melody has always been an incredible friend to me. Melody always went the extra mile to make sure that I was okay in my life, even at times when things were not good in hers. I appreciate her more than you know, especially 6 years ago when I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It took everything she had to help my friend Dave throw a surprise Christmas gathering for me, but she did, even when her world was falling apart. We have done things over the years like dinner, social events, just plain hanging out, as Melody would give you the shirt off her back. She always loved her children, no matter what. She loved Gary from the beginning and stuck with him over the years, stating and trying to raise their 4 children as a mother should. She was there for Gary when he was sick. She was there for her children when they needed her. And next one.
It's an interesting statement. She always loved her children, no matter what. Except when it comes to murdering her husband and blaming one of her children.
She was there for all of us.
Yeah, I believe we just will have some argument as to sentence, but Ms. Farris wanted to address the court whenever it's appropriate.
I'll generally let her go last, so long as she doesn't talk about the facts of the case. So y'all can go ahead and present.
How many times did she get interrupted?
All right, go ahead.
Judges has the argument, we've already addressed the murder issue. We agree with that. The aggravated assault should merge into the malice murder count based on the way that the indictment reads. So the court will only be sentencing on count 1, count 4, as well as count 5. The court knows you can sentence her to a minimum of life as to count 1, or a maximum of life without the possibility of parole. The court can also run.
I mean, even if she got life with the possibility of parole, when is that possibility of parole? Because she's already like in her late 60s. Would the possibility of parole be when she's in her late 70s, mid 80s?
Consecutive to either one of those sentences, a maximum of 15 years. We will be asking the court to ask count 1, sentence Ms. Farris to life with the possibility of parole. Ask to count 4, 10 years concurrent, and ask to count 5, 5 years concurrent, both to count 1. Looking at the Department of Corrections inmate population, which apparently
Oh, I thought she was like 67 years old.
is readily available online. You can see that once a person gets over the age of 65, their presence in the prison system dwindles dramatically.
64 years old. Okay, 64.
Of 65, their presence in the prison system dwindles dramatically. Melody is currently 63 years old. Any sentence really that this court gives, if it gives her life with the possibility of parole, with the current restrictions on parole eligibility being at 30 years for this sentence, is essentially a death sentence for Ms. Farris. Before even being eligible and not guaranteed parole after 30 years, that would make her 93 years old
Holy
before
shit.
she's eligible for parole. And looking at the female population of the current Department of Corrections, there are currently, at her age, only 11 females currently in custody in the state of Georgia. If you go 10 years from that, you get to 74, there is 1, and there are no females older than 74 currently housed within the Department of Corrections. Based on that, Judge, and the facts of the case as the court heard them, there's a reason for this to be a trial and to be such a long trial. I think that there was some doubt, especially with the jury stating that at one point they were hung and they coming back with a verdict. And we respect the jury's verdict, although we do not.
I think that's what I heard too. So initially it was a hung jury and then they were sent back to deliberate. And I think they came back pretty quickly with the guilty verdict. Jesus. I heard that the jury did speak out though about that. Did you guys hear that already?
Agree with it. So for those reasons, at one point they were hung and they coming back with a verdict. And we respect the jury's verdict, although we do not agree with it. So for those reasons, her age, her lack of criminal history, which the court has heard hundreds of times during all the bond hearings and that we had over the years, of which she had no history, that the appropriate sentence in this case would be the court to sentence her to life on count 1, with counts 4 and 5, 5 and 10 to run concurrent. At least that will give her some possibility of being parole eligible at some point in the future.
All right.
A juror who deliberated in this trial spoke out, and we're going to jump to it really quickly because I was curious during the live stream. So if you guys already listened to it, just jump ahead. We have little chapters down below. It's all labeled. But if you haven't seen it yet, it is very interesting to hear from the juror's perspective as to what happened during deliberations. Initially, they couldn't come to a unanimous decision that Melody Farris was guilty. The judge sent them back in, and they came back quickly again to, with a guilty verdict. So I thought it was very interesting. It was covered by Court TV. I did not hear about the jurors. They spoke about it.
After more than 13 hours over 4 days, Melody Farris was found guilty of murdering her husband, Gary, and putting his body on the backyard burn pile.
We, the jury, as the count 5, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 4, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2, find the defendant guilty.
Holy shit. Imagine hearing that it was a hung jury at some point and getting a glimmer of hope, and then they come back and they're like, nah, guilty.
And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty.
Both Scott and Chris Farris broke down as that verdict was read. And Melody Farris's attorney, as we know, pointed the finger at Scott, claiming that he was the real killer. Melody Farris is looking at life behind bars now. Her sentencing set to happen in December.
All right, let's get to the juror. Is this the juror? Who is the juror? Is this the juror? Maybe this is the juror? Or is this an expert?
Juror Bethany. Bethany, good morning to you.
Oh, this is the juror. Oh, okay. We're going to get the juror coming out in the station. All right. Let's see what she says.
Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with what influenced you the most hearing this case?
For me personally, it was just the overwhelming, in my opinion, evidence that she was there during the opportune times for the murder and the cleanup, and that even though Scott had presence on the property during, those, like, between 12 and 6 a.m., it didn't seem like there was any kind of an opportunity. It didn't seem like there was any kind of a motive. So just all those things. For me personally, it was just kind of like that logical conclusion of, if nobody else is here to do it, then who did? And then you add in all the other stuff, and that just supported. For me personally, I wasn't quite there until over the weekend. It took over the weekend, and when I came in on Monday, I felt very at peace about what I thought had happened.
Was there ever
I love her glasses.
a moment that you would say was pivotal? Was there ever kind of something with the evidence that made you go, oh wow, this for me might have really tipped the scales of justice?
Yeah, the phone calls.
Rusty.
Yeah, with Rusty. There was a lot of conversation that I felt.
I think Rusty was the guy that she was having an affair with, and then she started saying that, oh, the affair ended a year before Gary was found in the burn pit. But investigators found that she lied about that.
There was a lot of opportunity. I felt like she could have denied it. She could have been more clear that it was appalling to her and that she had nothing to do with it. But to me personally, I felt like they just were getting their story straight carefully because they were aware that they were being recorded. So, yeah.
Oh, God, no. Is it the jailhouse calls? Oh, gosh.
Sure. Bethany, being on a jury like this, obviously you're instructed not to look at any social media, watch any media about it, all of that. So perhaps unbeknownst to all of you, maybe you've found out now that the verdict was in. I don't know if you looked at it, but there was a great debate going on for the duration of this trial. Tell me, what do you think? Let's start with, what do you think happened? Because there were debates about who was the perpetrator, debates about how the killing happened. What's your belief when it comes to how Gary Farris was murdered and how he got on that burn pile?
I think that, first of all, I thought that it was odd that she left out the part where at least his phone traveled to a restaurant. So I think at some point while he was gone, the plan was decided to be executed. And then when he gets home, it happens. For me personally, it didn't matter whether or not it happened in the house or it happened in the yard. I didn't really care where it happened. I feel like the house showed evidence that something happened in the house. But I personally think that it's not difficult to imagine that she could have moved the body. When we got out to the site, it felt like it was a bit steeper than it looked in the pictures.
Oh, the jury visited the site? Oh, interesting.
I know my own personal strength. I know I'm a bigger lady than she is, but I don't have any mental reservations. If I had to move something with everything available, I would have figured out a way to do it. Like, that was not a stretch for me at all, the movement of the body. And I've forgotten.
That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, did you think that the killing happened in the basement or outside?
I think it was shot in the basement. I think it was shot in the basement. Mm-hmm. My mental image of it is he made his way outside to some degree, and then he died, and she used equipment, or she just used gravity to get him down into that burn pile.
What about the track? Oh, go ahead.
That was another thing that was a huge problem for me, was the fact that if not her, then somebody else did it. If somebody else did it, how are you unaware? That was a huge thing. Being completely unaware of shots fired, a body that size being moved, a body that size continuing having, I believe the fire had to be tended to. Somebody had to tend to it. And I don't see that happening without her being aware of it.
I was like hearing from the jurors and their thought process and what was like factor for them that was like, oh yeah, this person definitely fucking did it. Laura, said that when he attended the Sarah Boone sentencing, he said that he was sitting behind people that were serving on the jury for the Sarah Boone trial. So they decided to show up for the sentencing, which is really interesting.
Sure. Especially since she's up on the phone till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Bethany, I want to play a clip for you of when you all were deadlocked on Monday, that moment where the judge made that announcement and everybody watching this trial engaging in the great debates online was going, oh my goodness, they're going to go back in. Let's take a look.
We have a note that says that they are hung and do not feel like they will be able to come to a unanimous verdict.
So then how many hours after that did they come with a unanimous verdict?
And it's just to bring them in and tell them that they're the best qualified jury that there is to hear this case and to send them back out and tell them to continue deliberating.
Yep. I love his accent.
Oh boy. Okay, did you expect the judge to tell you to go back in and keep deliberating?
Yes, we did. We knew he was going to tell us to go back in and deliberate. I feel like there was a couple of us, I don't think me so much, but there was a couple of other people that definitely had more reservations and concerns about convicting. And I don't know, I just felt like mentally, emotionally, it was a lot for us. But we went on a lunch break, we took a breather, we came back, and we just got right back into it as if we had in the beginning, and just worked through just a couple more little things that, you know, a couple people had issues with, and then we all felt very solid about our decision.
What were those big issues that led to the deadlock?
Yes, yes.
It just, I would say the lack of putting the gun in her hand, the lack of, you know, how did she get the body to there? The lack of evidence definitely caused doubt. But we overcame that with all the other evidence that was there.
Sure. Bethany, I want to talk to you about Scott Farris, because we know the defense squarely pointed the finger at him. I mean, literally, the defense attorney you saw pointed the finger at him in the closing argument and was saying that he was the one who killed his dad. Was the jury ever stuck on that idea?
Not for very long. That was one of the first things that we did, was rule out everybody else. We just looked at what they were saying about everybody else, and did we find that there was enough evidence to consider them as a reasonable doubt? And Scott was the last one. He took longer, but in the end, that was another thing, the CPAP machine. We don't think that if he would have been alive, you know, and killed overnight, he probably would have been attached to that CPAP machine. That's why there's just so many things that they're little things, they're not direct things, but logically you put them together and nothing else makes sense.
Did you feel that the state of Georgia presented a clear legal theory about how Gary Farris was killed, where he was killed, how he got onto the burn pile, and who did it? Did you feel like they made everything crystal clear for you as a jury when you went back to that room?
I feel like they made everything as crystal clear as they could. And there were actually big pieces of evidence that we didn't even really look at. We didn't, like the phone call mapping where it had like activity at different times and different, you know, when she called phone calls. We didn't really look at that much. I can't remember the other things. There was a couple of other things that we just didn't.
Hey, Lauren, I haven't heard her statements yet. I have not heard her statements yet. Lauren says, hey, Corky, everyone, super late. Her statements for her son, wow, my jaw was on the floor. Yeah, everyone's like, Corky, get ready. All right, let's get back to Melody Farris.
Judge, a jury has already convicted Melody Farris of all of the crimes in this indictment. They did not find doubt in this case. They did not see the holes. They saw the picture as clearly as Mr. Fogus, Sergeant Hayes, and I did, and the family. I want to start by talking about the aggravation in this case. I think it's pretty clear the jury convicted her of concealment. And within that concealment, the facts were that she burned his body to 33 pounds of a 300-pound man. And the facts in this case also made it clear that she wanted him found. She watched Amanda and Scott both walk by the burn pile. Amanda even tossed something in there, waiting for someone to find his remains, because she is not stupid. She knew a body needed to be found.
Oh, did she lure them to the burn pit somehow? Or did she know that they were going to go by? Did she know they were going to use it?
So she pointed out to Scott, strategically, her child. She made her children find this body. Their father burned up in a burn pile. The granddaughters were on the property looking for him. The fact that she used the children and Lake Lanier as an attempted alibi, it's deplorable. When you think about her statements to Rusty Barton, when she states that body should not have been burned up, she wanted her children to find their father. I say all this to say,
wow,
that the way Gary Farris was rolled out after being shot by his wife of 38 years to a burn pile on his own property, disposed of like trash, when he had just been blessed with a third granddaughter 6 months before, and now he will never meet the future grandchildren. He was robbed of a life as a grandfather, a father to his adult children to help them navigate the difficulties of life. That was supposed to be his best stage of life. Being a grandparent.
I mean, what was her motive? I heard that her and her husband were arguing because she didn't want the kids to get money. I think she wanted the money herself. Was there some sort of will that if he had passed away that while they were still married that she would get money? Was there like life insurance? Is this just like money motivated so she could run off with like her new boyfriend or something like that? Is that why she did it?
And Judge, I just want to point out under 171030, which does not apply to this case, but a defendant has a depravity of mind who mutilates or seriously disfigures the victim's body after death may have been found to have a depraved mind. That's clear in this case. Melody Farris has a depraved mind. That's aggravation. And then throughout the investigation and the trial, continues to blame her children for this death, for this murder of their father and the grandfather of their grandchildren. She tainted and tarnished her children's relationships, not only with each other.
Right, because I think I heard that out of her 4 kids, I think there was a daughter that supports her, I think. Did that daughter testify by any chance? You guys know?
But tried to drag their relationships with their father through the mud when they had nothing but love and respect for him. She successfully divided her family, isolating Amanda, and it's all for her own selfish motive. All of this. The motive evidence in this case was overwhelming. Blaming her own sons for a murder she committed is unthinkable as a mom and just as human. This sentence should not reflect the defendant where she is in life because she chose to commit this crime at that time. She chose to commit this crime 6 months after Olivia was born. But it should reflect the life that was lost and the way it was lost, the manner in which it was lost. At her hands, with her depraved heart and mind. Gary was a brilliant lawyer, a forgiving man, and a beloved father and grandfather. The sentence should reflect what this family and what the world has lost. And that deserves a sentence of imprisonment of life without the possibility of parole. Thank you, Judge.
I love it. I love that
Right.
tone. I love that sternness.
Ms. Harris, do you have a statement?
I do.
Oh, hell. Okay, y'all get ready. She about to talk to us now. Melody Farris. I'm going to have her at normal speed, okay?
I've written this so that I could get through the words.
Okay.
So I can get the what?
On July the 5th, 2018, 6 years, 5 months ago today, began the worst nightmare that I could have ever imagined. Not only my world, but my family's world was absolutely destroyed at the hands of one person. I've had 6+ years of being told not to talk. Don't say that. Take legal advice. I could walk out of this courtroom today and drop over dead. I want to make sure that my children, my grandchildren, and Gary's family, and to be honest, at this point in time, the entire world who has viewed this. I have waited for years to make this statement to everyone. I want the world to know who did this. I have always heard that the courtroom is the last place you're going to get the truth.
Oh, did she not testify at trial? Like you would have to testify. If you're saying that you didn't do it, if you didn't do it and someone else did, like you should be testifying, no? Probably better not to. Did she not testify?
And has that ever been proven to be the truth in this case?
She didn't. Okay.
Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. He took Big Daddy from our grandchildren, Ella, Addison, Olivia, Jax, and James, 3 of them who never got to know Gary. Scott, this is unforgivable. Scott has spent an entire life of loving and protecting you, but this I refuse to cover for you.
I fucking love Chris. I love Chris. I love all his facial expressions. I love all the hand movements. Oh my God. Holy shit.
My mother, your mom, begged me to take the blame for this. She said after she talked to you, after Gary died, that she knew you had done it. Her exact words were, "You are his mother. You have to take blame for this." And I told her no, that I couldn't. I still have 3 other children, grandchildren, and this is not a stolen credit card, a check, or a diamond ring that you've pawned, all of which you have done. I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th in your truck. You told me that you were checking on the fire to make sure that it wasn't going to get the woods on fire. You told me it was okay. I asked you a few weeks later why you were at that burn pile in your truck, and you told me that your dad had told you to clean up the extra wood that was by the barn. I told Hayes that I had seen Scott that morning coming from the burn pile. So, Hayes, where is that recording? I want to know.
Yo, look at everyone's face in the gallery. Holy shit. I'm going back a little bit.
Your truck. And you told me that your dad had told you to clean up the extra wood that was by the barn. I told Hayes that I had seen Scott that morning coming from the burn pile. So, Hayes, where is that recording? I want to know. You told me there was multiple recorders. You did, but you sat here in this courtroom and you told this court that you didn't tell anybody about recorders, but you did. Where is that recording in the interview? You, Scott, immediately started saying that there was a gun missing, a gun that nobody knew about. You never mentioned before. I asked you more days than not where your dad was, and this was the first time you ever had that response. There's a gun missing. You should have you did start immediately spinning your story. When you found out that Addison and Cameron were there the night before, you got so angry. Now I know why. When I went to feed the baby goat the morning
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this.
No, I'm like,
It's all about the facts of the case.
How long are they gonna let her go on and talk about this? Oh my gosh! But you know, if I just like saw this like reaction in the beginning, I was like, oh, this kind of looks genuine. Like she's crying, she's breaking down. Oh man, I think she's just out to get her revenge. How dare you, children? How dare y'all testify against me? How dare you side with your father?
In fact, misstated. Her statement needs to not be about the facts.
Right. Well, Ms. Farris, really not supposed to go into the evidence of this phase of the case.
Look at the judge's face. I think the judge is in shock too.
And what I typically do is if the defendant wants to go into the facts of the case, I'm going to allow the state to cross-examine or ask questions, which I don't really anticipate you want to do.
I would just ask to close, Judge.
Your statements needs to be constrained to the punishment, and you know, if there's things you want to talk about in relation to that and how I should sentence you, I don't have a problem if you want to continue to profess your innocence, but we're not going to go on for a significant period of time. You resuscitate your view of the case and your opinion as to what the evidence is without
Cross her.
your prior testimony and without the state being able to cross-examine it, it's not proper. So I'm going to ask you to restrain your remarks to comply with those directions.
Oh boy. All right, cross out this entire page. Maybe we should have had James Owens read through this before she decided to read it out loud. Where James Owens at? Get James Owens over here. Tell him to go over to Georgia for me.
Judge, this needs to be known.
Well,
I'll just ask to respond, Judge.
all right. All right, go ahead.
I went to feed the baby goat the morning of July the 5th before I left for the lake. I saw where you had washed out the barn. I later found that several bottles of house wash were missing after this all happened several weeks ago. Now I know why. The photos of your bathroom spotlessly clean. Now I know why. I know why you demanded me to move the tractor that you so were upset about it being in the place. Now I know why. Scott, you called me on July the 4th and asked me what my plans were for the day. And I told you I was going to the lake with Amanda, and you were so glad that I was going. I thought it odd then. Now I know why. I found copies of my birth certificate, your dad's birth certificate, our marriage license in your truck. Now I know why.
So he did it for the money, trying to get money from the dad, inherit money. But wouldn't you have to split that with your 3 other siblings and your mother? Would the... I don't know. I don't know how much money the dad has. Maybe he has a lot of money. Wait, she's accusing her sons of the murder. I haven't followed this case. Yes, this is the case I kept getting confused with Lori Shaver, because both women are accused of murdering their husbands, and then both women are accusing one of their kids of doing it. So she's accusing one of her adult children, who was living on the farm with them at the time, of murdering the husband.
Scott, I saw Gary going to that barn the night of July the 3rd, right after you got home. And then Scott is going, and I thought then Scott's going to be in trouble for staying at the lake and playing golf all the time. Never in a million years did I ever think that this nightmare was starting then. I told you, Detective Hayes, that I saw Scott going over there to the barn. Where is that in the recording? A bag. I know exactly where and when I was standing. Scott, you put antifreeze under my kitchen sink to set me up for this. That only you would have known where it was, because it was for the Mercedes. When Amanda and I were putting that house back together, you sat in there and watched us like a hawk. Now I know why. You became so angry when the fire investigator came in July, weeks after this nightmare started. Now I know why you were so angry. Scott, you failed your polygraph test. You recorded meetings at the attorney's office and turned them over to the DA's office. We hired Manny to help us. Emily is the one who used her daddy's credit card to pay for that attorney. Scott, you got so angry that your sister Amanda was getting my personal clothes and my personal things to the point that Cherokee County had to be called. That is not the actions of the same person. Scott's anger issues have all been a huge issue. When he was in kindergarten and elementary school, Chris
I'm
Whittle.
objecting. At this point, she's dragging Scott through the mud and his character. This is not proper.
All right, Ms. Farris, I'm going to cut you off if you keep just wanting to resuscitate facts that aren't before the court. And Ms. Frankish, I'll give you a chance to respond to the extent that you want to, and
Cross-examine, cross-examine, cross-examine.
give you closing statement.
I am the mother that was always there for my children, even though they had done things that were wrong. Chris, who took care of your girls and loved them if they were my own, who came and got them off the street when you were acting an absolute fool because they were scared to death, who drove down to Buckhead and got your children.
Now, I will tell you, okay, so just to kind of give you some direction.
She done?
Things that are appropriate, you helping take care of your family, raise your family, those kind of things, what you've done throughout your life, and asking the court to exert some sort of mercy on you, things of that nature are appropriate. So you can talk about those kind of things, but let's don't go into the individual facts or things that haven't been previously presented to the court.
Yo,
Okay?
Scott looks
All
defeated.
right, go ahead.
I love Ella and Addison more than life itself. And it was their life or mine, it would be mine in a heartbeat. Emily, who helped you move to and from
TLDR, my children are shit, therefore give me less reason time.
an apartment and a house in 19-degree weather, even though I knew that you were trying to keep it from me. I was always there for you. I came back to you in Thompson Station after your husband was arrested to care for you and Olivia. I am so sorry that your children will never know their big daddy. Amanda and Chad, words cannot express my gratitude for everything that you've done for me. Thank you so very much. And I was fortunate enough to get to care for James every day since he was 3 weeks old. He is my pride and joy. Love for that little boy is unbelievable. I spent 18 plus months in the Cherokee County Jail over something that I did not do.
Do y'all know any other YouTubers that cover this case? Because the YouTubers that I watch, I don't think they covered Melody Farris. Anyone know? Or who do you guys watch? Or do you guys just watch it on Law and Crime or Court TV?
The last thing, I thought that was the last thing I could do to Gary, for him, to get justice for him.
I don't know if Bose did. I don't think so. Oh, Recovery Addict did? Okay.
I can remember thinking, it's okay that I sit here. I just want answers. That's all I want.
And the docket. The docket. That sounds familiar. I think I know the docket. I think I'm familiar with them.
And I still haven't gotten them. And I don't think that I ever will. And that scares me to death. Amanda was the only one of my children that got up here and told the truth. And I thank her for that every day. Judge Cannon, I had so many questions, so many whys. Why were so many things not there?
So was she also trying to say that the other children knew that their brother did it, with the exception of Amanda, of course, that the other children knew that the brother did it and they tried to like lie on the stand and cover up?
Task. Why was the barn never checked? I think that would have given us so many answers. Why did they run out of Blue Star? They were on my property for days. I beg of you to get answers. Judge Cannon, I am begging for justice for Gary, for my children, for my grandchildren, for Gary's family. And I am begging that you throw out this verdict. Be the 13th juror.
Damn. Toss it out, Judge. Toss out this verdict.
Help us get justice. I did not do this. I promise you on my life. The 18 months that I did in Cherokee County was nothing compared to the last month that I spent in there. Now I know that Cherokee County did not do their job in the investigation. They took Scott's story and ran with it. I know that in my heart, body, and soul, who did this. And I'm begging for help. I'm begging you, Judge Cannon. Please do not send me to prison for something I didn't do. I did not do this. If I had done this, I would take this charge gladly. If it would bring Gary back, I would gladly go to prison.
I kind of want to watch the trial. I kind of want to watch the trial. I feel like I gotta watch the trial. She's given her speech is actually like pretty fucking good. Like as an outsider, I think her speech is pretty fucking good. But again, you know, she could just be bullshitting everything and just spewing lies. But as an outsider looking in, I'm like, okay, this speech is actually pretty fucking good. I'm curious. I'm fucking curious now.
I do not want to wait years for an appeal. I've waited 6 years and 5 months for justice already, but here we are. Maybe I should have testified, but I listened to legal counsel. I wanted the truth out there, and this is why I am making this statement. I will talk to any and everyone who can help me and my family. I never wanted.
But here's the thing. I have a soft spot for like old people. I'm like, oh my God, like, oh. So maybe it's my soft spot, but okay. Maybe I'm gonna watch the trial. I'm gonna watch the trial. I think we're gonna watch the trial. We gotta watch the trial. I think I went to watch the trial. I was like, oh man, I have like a whole month where it's like nothing much is happening. I think there's like some hearings for other cases, you know, like we had Lori Vallow, we got Karen Reed stuff, maybe Idaho stuff, but I'm like, maybe I should clear my calendar and just watch the Melody Farris trial at this point. Holy shit. The highlights, I don't know. I feel like I would want to watch the trial. Like maybe we watch it at like 1.5 speed or something. Like, should we watch the trial?
My family's life to be played out for the world to see. It is a mother's job to protect her children. And I cannot protect the person who did this. We can't replace Gary. That is unforgivable. I promise you to work hand in hand with the DA's office. But what scares me the most is that because of several individuals, so many others in this county that did not do their job, justice will never be done. For the last 6 years and 5 months, my every thought has been consumed with this. No matter what I do, it never leaves. And until you have lived this, nobody can understand. And I would not wish this on anybody. When I heard of the mother of the boy at the Appalachia school shooting, she called to tell that her own son was going to the school with a gun. My heart broke for her. This is a mother's worst nightmare. Judge Cannon, I beg of you for help. As one parent to another.
I haven't watched this trial. I have not. This trial happened when Sarah Boone was happening, I think. Because I think, wasn't this back in October? October was like very busy. October was like, there was like the Delphi stuff. There was Sarah Boone. I think this was in October as well. Was Lori Shaver? No, Lori Shaver is more recent, right? Whew.
Help me get justice for Gary and my family. A mother, or at least not this mother, does not blame her child unless she knows he did it. Not think.
Yeah, stream live on October 7th. Yes, day one was the same. It was when Sarah Boone's original trial was supposed to start. So yeah, this is during the Sarah Boone stuff. I feel like we slept on this trial because we were too busy with Sarah Boone. Because after Sarah Boone finished and wrapped up, I got sucked into the Delphi stuff because I was like, yo, Delphi stuff is also really crazy as well. Yeah, I completely slept on this trial.
Knows, and I would never sit here and let the attorneys lay blame to him if I didn't know. You have no idea how heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching this is. John Luke says that I'm the most stoic person that he's ever met. My response was, you never know how strong you are until that's your only choice. So before it's said that the only reason I'm telling you this is because I got a guilty verdict, it's not. If it had come back as not guilty, I would have still been begging for justice, for help getting the right person convicted. As soon as I walked out of the courtroom, I promise you I would have done that. Chris, Emily, Amanda, Ella, Addison, Olivia, Jack, and James, I am doing this for you. Carrie is gone, and trust me. When I say that he is in a better place, because this has been the worst nightmare. It's been hell on earth.
Yeah, it's wild because like I feel like she's kind of convincing, but then when you look in the gallery for children, they all look like what the fuck on their face. Like the son that's being accused, like to me, he's not sitting there looking kind of guilty. He's sitting there looking like what the fuck, like in disbelief, like major disbelief. So I feel like we might have to watch the trial.
Knowing that your own son did this.
But you got to remember the manipulators are also great actors as well, actors/actresses. Okay, they are really good at wheeling people in. So maybe she's really good at manipulating.
And it's only been by the grace of God that I have survived this last 6 years and 5 months. If I could, I would gladly trade places with Gary. Judge Cannon, I am begging you for help. Please do this for Gary and my family. I have missed years with the people that I love dearly. Help me restore my family. Be the person in Cherokee County that it is their task.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, wasn't she out on bond this entire time? Wasn't she only recently taken away when they found her guilty?
I do not want years. I do not want to wait years for justice, years that I may not have. I know this is something that you may never have seen before. And I plead with you to roll this verdict out. Help me get justice for the correct person. As bad as it sounds, I want to be there to watch him chained and shackled and brought to justice. I plead with you. This is something that...
Had she hired like a PI or anything by chance? Because I feel like if you really think that you didn't do it, not really think. If you really knew that you didn't do it and you really think that it was, one of your kids, like, did she hire a PI? Did she hire someone to try to investigate one of her kids or something? Or someone else?
I will never recover from. I don't know that my family will ever recover from. Please help me. I'm begging you to restore my faith in the judicial system.
Her son looks pissed.
I'm begging you, not for me, but for Gary and my children and my grandchildren.
All right. Ms. Frankish, you want to respond to anything?
Very briefly, Judge. When the attorneys had the opportunity to give jurors, Your Honor was, I believe, present for that. For Scott's sake, they ruled him out in the very beginning of deliberations. Her statement I ask that you take note of his inconsistencies with the evidence, respect the jury's verdict, which I know you will do, that the verdict is spoken. And we ask, in addition to what we previously asked, Judge, as a condition that she never profit from this story, from this crime, I just ask that you include that into her sentence.
That's what I was possibly thinking too, that like, you know, how dare my kids, how dare they go up there and testify? How dare they side with their father?
All right.
Here comes the judge.
All right, as we've indicated, jury have returned a verdict guilty to all counts. Count 1, the malice murder, being the primary charge. Count 2 would be vacated as a matter of law based upon the conviction in count 1. Count 3, aggravated assault, would merge into the malice murder. I don't, without going into a lot of detail or my thoughts on it, jury's made a determination that Ms. Farris was responsible for her husband's death, and she was found guilty of all charges. I don't have much latitude in sentencing. The legislature has spoken, and the penalty for murder is life. The only determination I have is whether it would be with parole or without parole. I don't believe this is the case that justifies a life without parole sentence, so I'm going to sentence to life with parole, or life with the possibility of parole. I don't have any control over parole. That's up to...
Can you explain why? Can you tell us why he thinks she should get parole?
The parole board, under the current guidelines and sentencing structure with them, a life sentence is a minimum 30 years before you'd be considered for parole at this point. Minimum 30 years before you'd be considered for parole.
Oh, God, 30 years. Holy shit. Hey, you know, maybe she will live till like 100. God damn. Wow. Minimum 30 years before she might be eligible for parole. Does that, when they say that, does it usually mean 30, or is it like, if you're on good behavior, maybe we'll consider less than 30? Like, is it like a definitive 30? Like, is that 30 no matter what? Yeah, I think she might die in prison. I don't know. I can't imagine being in prison and living till like 100. That seems rough. That seems tough.
Parole at this point, I recognize that is likely a life sentence for you.
Yeah.
But you'll have the hope and possibility of parole. As to count 4, which has a maximum of 10 years, I'm not, as I said, I wasn't going to sentence life without parole. However, I do.
I don't know. Because I would imagine if you were truly innocent, you'd be breaking down crying right now. Like, oh, I didn't do it. Like, what the fuck? I didn't do this. But she's like sitting there like, she's like, fuck, he didn't believe me.
I do feel like there's some additional consideration that needs to be taken as to count 4, the concealing the death of another. Presumably, the point of that was so you were found guilty of discarding and burning body of Gary Wayne Farris, hindering discovery of whether the person was unlawfully killed. That definitely hindered the investigation and shows additional level of criminal intent. I'm going to sentence to 5 years consecutive on the life sentence as to count 4, concealing the death of another. The false statements, that being the lying to law enforcement about the relationship with Mr. Barton. I believe if law enforcement didn't know about it at the time, they knew about it shortly thereafter. It was well known. Didn't take a lot of effort to make that determination. I don't really find that that's anything additional that needs additional punishment. So I'll run the 5 years concurrent as to count 5. So that would be a life plus 5 with the possibility of parole. And that'll be the sentence.
Count 4, Judge. Count 5 would be concurrent with count 4.
Count 5 would be concurrent with count 4 and the other counts. She'd be eligible for the credit for the time that she's served in the Cherokee County Jail, subject to the jailer's affidavit from the sheriff's office. To the extent that that gives her credit for her sentence, she would receive that. With it being a life sentence and her being in control of the Department of Corrections, are there anything that you want me to put as a condition of her sentence?
No contact with family, Judge.
All right.
And not profiting from
You said no contact with family?
her conviction.
I will provision that she may not have direct communication with, well, I mean, she may have some of the family that wants to reach out to her. So what I would say is she's not to have any contact with family members. I don't know who they would even notify other than the prison. So any members of the family that want to have contact with you may contact you. They'll need to reach out to the warden's office first and let them know that they want to allow you to have contact with them, so you can call out to whoever has given approval to the warden. As far as the other provision, I'm not going to make any condition as to that. That will be something that would be left to a civil court if there is a lawsuit down the road and judgment, etc. So, all right, that being said, court.
Law and crime? I don't see anything on law and crime.
Yes.
Bye, Melody.
All right. Execute the non-pros on the other indictment based upon the conviction on this case.
Yes.
Let's see.
Holy shit. That was crazy. The family, like seeing the people in the gallery and their facial expressions when she was going on at her speech about like, I didn't do it. Scott did it. Scott did it because he did this, he did that. I know it's him because of this X, Y, and Z. Something about Freon, Mercedes.
All right. Okay. I got another sentencing, but it's not for another 35 minutes. So if y'all want to break stuff down, y'all are welcome to.
Yeah, everyone kind of looks pissed or like slashed in disbelief. Yeah, I am curious though, because it was mentioned that Gary was 300 pounds. That's a lot of weight to be moving. Maybe she had something to transport him. Like the juror said, you know, there's a will, there's a way. So maybe she found a way to transport Gary's body over to the burn pit. Oh boy. All right. Yeah, that was pretty wild. Holy shit. I don't know if I thought, if I watched the entire trial, I thought she was 100% sure guilty like I did with Sarah Boone. I wonder how I'd rank that. Like, more unhinged than Sarah Boone, or was Sarah Boone's more unhinged? The tractor, okay. I transported cement in a wheelbarrow. I think he was shot and ran out towards the burn pit in the backyard to try to escape. Tractors. Because someone did mention that maybe he was shot in the basement. I was like, in the basement? Are there like stairs that you got to go up or something? Oh boy. It would be really cool to see the property. I don't know if they have pictures of the property. They probably do, right? Okay, so I think we might have to watch the Melody Farris trial. Because her speech definitely has gotten me curious. We're so curious about Melanie Farris now. I put my glasses on. Oh man, all right, let's see. Day 1. Prosecutor Jeffrey Focus opened for the state by urging jurors to shrink their worlds and find the only person who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to kill Gary Farris was his wife, the defendant Melody Walker Farris. Focus, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Focus, noted that Melody liked being married to a rich lawyer. They lived in a mansion worthy of being featured in Southern Living. The two lived in the same house but had separate living quarters. Melody lived upstairs, Gary lived downstairs, and they cheated on each other over the course of their marriage. Yikes. There was a constant tension in the relationship because Melody did not like the way Gary used his money. Gary spent lavishly to support his grown children who appeared to rely on his generosity. Focus said that Gary was shot and killed, his body placed in a burn pile for his son Scott to find. The prosecutor states that this did not occur because of a break-in, robbery, and the only person in the house at that time was Melody. Did she try to establish an alibi for herself during this? She was there. Did she really think that people were going to think that it was the son that did it? Defense attorney Michael Ray opened by suggesting to jurors that still too many unanswered questions should prevent them from finding the client guilty of murder. Ray notes police don't know where Gary was shot in the house, how Melody could have moved her husband, 6'3", over 300 pounds, onto the burn pile, and no murder weapon was recovered from the property. Ray notes that Scott is the only one who possesses a .38 caliber ammunition, the same kind of ammunition that investigators say killed Gary. Day 2. Police investigators arrived to find a smoldering burn pit containing the remains of Gary Farris. A projectile was located in a rib fragment. Crime scene investigators located what appeared to be a reddish-brown stains on a Kubota tractor hydraulic pump. Oh, okay, that's how he was transported. Shift lever and left footstep. Touch DNA swabs were collected from the 9 points on the tractor, the steering wheel, the 3-point hitch lever, power takeoff switch, the hand throttle lever, loader control, directional shifter, support handle, the fender, the ignition key. A projectile was found between an ottoman and a rug on the floor in the recreational room. Is that the basement? A red shirt with what appeared to be soot was found inside the Farris home. .38 caliber ammunition was found in the loft apartment above the barn. The son lived above the barn, if I remember correctly. Day 3. Melody Farris sent a text message to her friend and neighbor, Terry Broswell, stating, "I hope he, Gary Farris, dies alone and a gruesome death. Yeesh." Battalion Chief Ricky Collette, Cherokee County Fire and Emergency Service, told jurors the dive team did not locate a gun in the pond on the Farris' property. Christopher Farris, the couple's oldest son, told jurors that there was no funeral for his father. His mother, Melody Farris, asked, "Why have a funeral when there's nothing left?" Oof, callousness. Gary Farris was believed to be missing after he did not answer his cell phone on July 4, 2018. Damn, this was back in 2018? She's been out since 2018? That's a long time. Scott Farris, the couple's second oldest child, found his mother's remains in the burn pile. Gary Farris told his children in 2010 that their mother had gotten a home equity loan on their Alpharetta farm, that's where they're living, which led Gary Farris serving divorce papers to his wife. The couple never divorced and reconciled. Oh no, is this the Corey Richins scenario? So Corey Richins took a HELOC out on the marital home, and she stole her husband's credit cards to pay off some of the debts and some other shit. And I think he found out that she took the husband's company's money that was allocated for tax payments, and she used it to pay off her own debt. And so when he found that out, that's when he was trying to possibly divorce her. He met with a divorce attorney and a tax attorney, I think, or was it a divorce attorney and someone else? Someone that redid his will. And that's when he redid his will so that if he dies, the money doesn't go to the wife, the money goes to the children. And she didn't know about that. And he also changed the trustee to be his sister. Oh boy. Is it the trustee or is it the executor? One of those. In April 2018, Gary Farris told at least 2 of his children that he thought their mother was trying to poison him. Oh gosh, not the poisoning method. Farris was rushed to the hospital after eating cookies his wife made for him after an argument. Oh man. Day 4. Melody Farris' second oldest child, Scott Farris, testifies against his mother regarding the death of her husband, Gary Farris. Melody Farris told family members about her son, Christopher Farris, stealing money and paying for various things. Gary Farris texted his son, Christopher Farris, stating, "Your stealing money is out of control." The text was sent a couple weeks before his death. Oh, possible motive. Scott Farris said that his father told him to hold on to his Gary Farris credit as if his life depended on it. Jenna Pawlowski, Melody Farris's former daughter-in-law, claims that Melody showed her a revolver belonging to her grandfather. The gun was inside the cadenza drawer in the basement. The last photo of a deer camera near the burn pile was a picture of Melody's son, Scott Farris. All other pictures had been deleted on the SD card inside the camera. Oh, who had access to delete that? Was it Melody? Day 5, Scott Farris, the second oldest son of Gary and Melody Farris, returns to the witness stand for a full day of testimony. Oh my God. He testified for the entire day. Day 6, Melody Farris' oldest daughter, Emily Farris Payne, testifies against her mother. GBI forensic pathologist Dr. Stephen Atkinson says Gary Farris died as a result of a gunshot wound to the torso. The manner of death was ruled as a homicide. Melody Farris's DNA was identified on the L2 shifter on the Kubota tractor and one blue shoe inside the home. Melody Farris and her son, Scott Farris, had their hands swabbed for fire accelerants. Both tests were negative. Blue Star Luminol revealed possible cleaning streaks near the top of the stairs leading to the home's basement. Hi, Bogart. How are you doing today? Hello, hello. Day 7. Jurors hear testimony from Melody Farris' paramour. Melody Farris' paramour. So I'm getting hungry. Ted Wiley. Wiley said he was unsure that anyone knew about their relationship until after the incident. Gary Farris kept a log whenever he had one of his spells. According to his legal assistant, Angela Phillips, the doctor could never find anything wrong with Farris. Gary Farris' legal assistant told the jury that she and Farris had a personal relationship. Gary Farris stopped responding to emails after 3:30 p.m. on July 4, 2018. Blood found on a t-shirt inside the Purcell Lane home was that of Melody Farris. Her defense attorney said that the DNA analysis, if she knew that the t-shirt belonged to Farris, and if she would expect to find Farris's DNA on a shirt that belonged to her, to which she replied, yes. The bullet found on the basement floor, the projectile found embedded into one of Gary's ribs, were fired from the same gun. But it's unknown the two same brand of bullet. Yeah, because what if she tried to make it look like it happened in the basement? That way they could be like, oh, it wasn't Melody Farris who did it, because there's no way this old woman, petite, can lift a 300-pound body from the basement into the burn pit. So I wonder, maybe she tried setting that up and maybe the shot didn't actually happen in the basement? Day 8, jurors hear testimony from Melody Farris' paramour, Rusty, Barton told investigators during an interview on July 24, 2018, that he spoke with Melody in the early morning hours of July 4, 2018, to which she told him that Gary was in the burn pile. Barton said he and his attorney tried repeatedly to recant his statement because he felt he was under duress. During a July 8, 2019 jailhouse call, Melody Farris asked Rusty Barton to please stop talking and that he, Rusty, would single-handedly hang me. Rusty Barton drove Melody Farris to the police station in Tennessee so that she can turn herself into the police. Rusty Barton's girlfriend in 2017 wrote an email to Gary Farris that he was having an affair with his wife. Ooh. A forensic anthropologist said that a fire at the burn pile was ignited once with no liquid accelerants. The fire started 24 hours before his body being found. Sharon Cooper, a friend of Melody Farris, said that Melody went on a secret trip to Jamaica with Rusty Barton. Melody Farris mailed her debit card to Cooper, who was beginning her move to Minnesota, so that she could make a small purchase on her behalf. Gary Farris thought Melody was in Minnesota with Cooper. The affair. Day 9. Rusty and Ted. Okay, we're two different lovers. Gotcha. Melody Farris's paramour, Rusty Barton, returned to the witness stand to finish direct and forward the defense's cross-examination. Barton told the jury he lied about Melody having said Gary was in the burn pile and tried repeatedly to recant his statement. Barton said none of his guns were missing and that his stepmother, Martha Jane, was not missing any guns. Barton's .357 Magnum was confiscated by the police for testing, but it was determined not to be the murder weapon. In Jamaica, they stayed at Hedonism 2. Wait, was it the name of the hotel or something? Hi, Christina. How are you doing today? Barton was dating another woman in Tennessee while having an affair with Melody. Law enforcement asked Barton to record his telephone conversations with Melody. Oh, wait, he did this? Barton told her their calls were being recorded, then purchased a prepaid cell phone so she would be comfortable that the police weren't recording their conversations. Oh, Barton, tis. Barton said he was trying to figure out whether she killed her husband and burned his body. Sure. Day 10. Really? It's literally called Hedonism 2. It's a swinger hotel. Fun. Rusty Barton's internet search include, if the police have a cell phone number, can they get all your text messages? Plain gold rings. And how police can get your text messages. ... Addison Farris said her grandmother would not allow her to stay the night on the farm on July 3rd, 2018. Ooh, I wonder why. Is it because she was planning on murdering? Addison Farris testified that she did not see her grandfather on the farm when she arrived on the evening of July 4, but last saw him on the evening of July 3rd, 2018. Addison testified that she did not see a fire or smoke coming from the burn pile when she stayed at her grandparents' home on July 4, 2018. The Cherokee County Sheriff's Office executed a search warrant for the Purcell farm before finding the bullet embedded into Gary Farris's ribs, the bullet in the basement, or blood evidence. Before the bullet was found in the basement, a projectile embedded in Gary Farris's rib and any blood found in the home, Melody Farris's sons, Chris and Scott, who we saw today, talked to the police about a missing gun, a tractor parked in a weird way. Oh no, and their mother having their father's wallet in hand. Dun dun. Melody Farris' second cousin, Martha Jane Barton, contacted the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office on October 18, 2024, to report her .38 special snub muzzle revolver was missing from her home. She told the investigator the police never asked if she was missing any guns in 2018, but after watching Rusty Barton's testimony, she knew they were talking about the gun that was given to her as a Christmas gift in the late 70s. Jurors heard jailhouse and recorded calls between Melody Farris and her paramour, Rusty Barton. Day 12, jurors heard audio recordings of Melody Farris's interview with the police in the early stages. Oh, we have the interview? Yes, we gotta watch the interview. Jurors hear audio recordings between Melody Farris and Rusty Barton before her arrest. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office asked Barton to record all phone conversations between the two of them. But I thought he told her that they were recording and they got a different phone so she wouldn't be recorded. Prosecutors played Melody Farris's police interview on July 6, 2018. Yes, I love interviews. Jurors visit, day 14, jurors visit the former home of Melody and Gary Farris. Lead Detective Daniel Haynes said that he never considered Chad Farris or Scott Farris a suspect in the death of the father, Gary Farris. The barn and Scott's Farris loft apartment above the barn was never searched for evidence or checked for blood. Day 15. Prosecutors rest in their case in chief on Friday. Jurors heard from 37 witnesses and experts over 15 days. Melody Farris' second cousin, Martha Jane Barton, testified that her .38 special handgun went missing sometime after her husband died in 2014, but only reported it missing on October 18, 2014. Barton said she told one other person who was now deceased that her gun was missing. Barton was asked to describe the relationship between Gary and Melody. She took a long pause before answering and said, "There is no love there." A cell phone tower dump near the Farris' Purcell Lane home showed that the last phone and data location for Gary Farris' phone ended on July 4, 2018 at 6:24 p.m. Prosecutors and law enforcement contend that Gary Farris was murdered on July 3, 2018 after 10 p.m. According to cell phone records presented to the jury, Gary Farris left his home at 8:28 p.m. on July 3rd, headed to the nearby restaurant, stayed at the restaurant until 9:21 p.m. Gary Farris' phone is moving towards his home at 9:26 p.m. and 9:32 p.m. Melody Farris calls her son Scott at 10:52 p.m. needing help rounding up farm animals who had broken free from their enclosures. Scott Farris arrives home at 11:30 p.m. and calls his mother after realizing the animals were back in the pasture and he saw the burn pile burning. Did they normally have a burn pile that was burning during that time of the year? Or was it like an one-off occasion? On July 4, 2018, data shows Gary Farris' cell phone is moving around the property beginning at 5:02 a.m. through his last phone activity at 6:24 p.m. Scott Farris called his mother to pick up the debit card at 6:12 a.m., returns home to give the debit card back to the mother, and leaves at 7 a.m. tea time for a nearby golf course. Amanda Farris, Gary and Melody's youngest daughter, encourages her mother to meet her and her fiancé at Lake Lanier around 11:28 a.m. Melody Farris leaves her home to Lake Lanier at 12:47. Ooh, running late. She returns home with her step-granddaughter just before dusk. Chris Farris, the couple's oldest daughter, drops off his daughter over at a sleepover soon after Melody Farris returns home. Chris does not stay long after dropping off his daughter. There's no cell phone data if Scott Farris returned home after playing golf on July 4, 2018. A digital forensic expert said that he was at Lake Lanier at that time. Judge David Cannon Jr. denied the defense's motion for a directed verdict on all 4 counts of indictment against Melody Farris. Farris is charged with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and concealing the death of another. Denied. Oh, wow. So, like, after the state rest, the defense case in chief was pretty short. Okay. They sometimes had a burn pile. Day 16. The prosecutor rests his case in chief on Friday. Jurors heard from 37 witnesses and experts over 15 days. Melody Farris's friend, David Thomas, described an incident with Melody's son, Scott, that he described was very close to being violent. So it wasn't violent, it was just very close to being violent. Amanda Bruce, the defendant's daughter, testified about the search for her father, Gary Farris, and what her brother, Scott Farris, told her at the burn pile. What did they tell her? Day 17. Forensic pathologist Dr. Jonathan Arden testified that he could not confidently say that the bullet found caused Gary Farris's death, or even say that the bullet entered his body. The defense concludes this presentation of the evidence on Tuesday and rested its case. Day 18, the jury deliberated for just under 1 hour late Wednesday before opting to call it a day and resume at 9 a.m. Thursday morning. The state's closing argument delivered by ADA Megan Frankish lasted about 103 minutes. Defense took about 113 minutes in total. Day 19, the jury delivered for roughly 4 hours on Thursday before leaving, pausing deliberations at 4 p.m. Oh, so they can go home for Halloween. The jury sent 2 notes during deliberations asking whether they could return to the courtroom to review digital evidence, including calls with Melody and Rusty. Rusty asked for corroboration of Melody's statement. Rusty's interview with Detective Pope, original statement about the comment on the burn pile, the audio played in closing, but what the full call between Melody and Rusty. How far back were Gary's emails checked for straight talk charges? What are straight talk? Were deleted emails checked for straight talk wireless charges? Was there a travel CPAP ever found? Was the device picking up Google pings for Gary? Google Services raw data exporter for unclear? AT&T/Verizon tower data? The judge, I don't know if there's anything that's going to tell them other than the evidence that's in. It's for them to determine whether they have those things in evidence. Day 20. The jury resumed deliberations at 9 a.m. They left early and resumed deliberations on Monday. Ooh, so they come back. A Cherokee County jury convicted Melody Farris on all counts of death, on all counts for the death of her husband. Juror Bethany discusses how the jury went from deadlock to guilt in a matter of hours. Following the jury's verdict, Gary Farris, his brother, John Farris, gave a statement outside the courtroom. Man, this seems so interesting. We've got interviews, we got jailhouse calls, we got secret recordings. And then Melody Farris kept talking about like some other recordings. And she's like, where are the recordings? Where are the recordings? Who has them? So I want to know what the hell she's talking about for those recordings. I know this seems like a very, very, very interesting trial. I think we'll watch parts of this trial. We'll see. I definitely want to listen to opening statements and hear some of the testimonies. I'll listen to the jailhouse calls. So I think it'd be really interesting to do that. Oh boy. All right, everyone. That's it for today. I just wanted to, so if you guys missed this week we had a lot of sentencings happening. We watched the sentencing of Sarah Boone. That was on Monday. Jamie Lee Komorowski was supposed to start her trial on Monday, but then she decided to plead guilty and waive her right to a jury trial. She got 25 years. And then we watched the sentencing of... What was the other sentencing? Shit. What was the other sentencing that we watched? Corgi has bad memory when she's hungry. Let me go to my YouTube. Sentencing. Oh, Ashley Benefield. Yes, Ashley Benefield sentencing. She got 20 years. And I think that's it, right? Yeah, Ashley Benefield and then Melody Farris. Today. Melody Farris, she is 64 years old. She got life, but with the possibility of parole, but she has to serve a minimum of 30 years. So If she does get parole, she'll be 93/94 if she's alive at that point. So we'll see. Maybe she will be. But yeah, that's it for today. I know Lori Vallow had a hearing today. They were trying to determine whether or not she was found competent. So it's possible that Lori Vallow, she might be representing herself. Do I think it's going to be a shit show? Yes. But, since I'm already done with Lori Vallow, I wouldn't mind seeing Lori Vallow in the action of the courtroom, because it's going to be hilarious. Her trying to represent herself. Oh, gosh. I don't know. What is up with these people just trying to represent themselves? Is it just because they're just bored, just have nothing else to do, and they're just like, oh, fuck it, let's just do it. Oh, yeah. This will give me a purpose in my life. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you guys being here. Feel free to join the Discord. If there's any other cases, any other trials you guys are watching or you guys want me to check out, or if you just want to share anything about that, feel free to post in the true crime section. We also have other sections as well, like general chat, share pictures. We have other sections you could post in. And yeah, feel free to join if you guys like. These are my socials. Feel free to join any of those. And I'm so hungry. I'm gonna go. Oh, did I forget to put my second channel on there? Oh, I forgot. I have a second channel I should put up on there. Bye everyone on Twitch and on YouTube. Yesterday we played the mouthwashing game on Twitch, and oh my god, that game. The game is really dark. Actually, it's so dark. I watched a recap of it after I finished it, so I'm gonna finish that. I think I'm gonna eat my lunch.